everyone, this is the walkthrough of the population session, and usually we cover this in week 2 of the semester. So in this week we're going to cover all about populations, from the terminology through population policies that have been implemented, and then you're going to have a population assignment due by the end of the week. This population assignment requires a little bit of work, so you're going to have to create some Excel spreadsheets, create some graphs, and then analyze that material. So please plan ahead this week and do not wait until Sunday at 10 o'clock to start this assignment. Make sure that you start the assignment sooner in the week so that it allows you time to actually think about the data and then analyze the data and really think about why things are happening in certain countries. So why are those terms such as crude birth rate, crude death rate, life expectancy, why are all of these terms really important in terms of these countries? You know, some of the countries will have high birth rates, some will have low birth rates, and you need to explain why. I do not want you to regurgitate the data. Rather, I want you to analyze the data and tell me why those specific things are happening in those countries. And so if you need help, I've made at the bottom a walkthrough video of the population assignment. Now, I have made kind of screenshots of how to make graphs in Excel, but also please be aware that if you don't have Excel on your computer and you're using some sort of Chromebook, that you have the ability right here in your email system, you have the ability to use Word, Excel, PowerPoint, etc. right through your apps in your OneDrive account. So make sure that you use this, okay? Make sure if you need to use Excel, you can use it here. So you can click on here and create your own worksheet here and then create your graphs here. After you've created your graphs and information here, if you do not have Excel, then you're going to want to, you can insert a pivot table, you can insert a pie graph, a bar graph with all of your data, and then you're going to want to hit File, Save As, and download a copy. Okay, so you're going to want to download a copy so that you then can upload it to Canvas, okay? And so all those instructions, except for the fact that this Office 365 is now available, are right here in this assignment. So this week we're covering population. Here's the population description, and you'll see right here the objectives, the fundamentals of population distribution and population dynamics. We're going to talk about growth in terms of birth rates, death rates, natural rate of increase. We're going to talk about life expectancy. We're going to talk about population structures, and we're going to talk about demographic transition models. We're also going to question questions of overpopulation, population control policies, such as the One China Child policy. And then, of course, access to health care, disease transmission. And, of course, this is a very timely topic for us to discuss because of COVID-19, right? Is that we are nearing 200,000 deaths in the United States, and it's mimicking the flu of 1918. So it's really another discussion that we need to have, which is what will be the next what will be the demise of the human population? Will it be related to a disease or a flu, or will it be related to lack of resources because we've reached our carrying capacity and we've used up all of our resources like clean water, clean air, or food, etc. So these are questions to be asked. So here are the readings that you're going to do in your open resource textbook. You're going to 2.1, 2.2, 2.3, etc. You have your PowerPoint. You have an assignment due by Sunday. Remember, we always have our initial post due by Tuesday, response post due by Thursday. So please make sure you remember that. And then we have our quiz due by Sunday. Always remember that the quizzes relate to the chapter and textbook reading and the PowerPoint, as well as the additional articles are not on the quiz. So it's really just the textbook chapter and the PowerPoint, so make sure you focus in on those areas. And a lot of it is with terminology. So let me just walk you through real quick. Population. I'm going to just walk through the PowerPoint real quick. And so you'll see here we have the life expectancy PowerPoint. It's a really great PowerPoint on how life expectancy is calculated. And remember, it's an average. The effects of the One China child policy, how do neighborhoods determine life expectancy? And this is a social justice issue, is that in a lot of Philadelphia neighborhoods that have lower socioeconomic classes, you'll see a lower life expectancy, and that is really sad in the United States, is the fact that we live in one of the wealthiest countries in the world, but yet we have pockets of areas that have very low life expectancy, and it's a social justice issue. What does your story neighborhood tell you about your life expectancy? This is about birth control / abortion rate. So this was a really good study on terms of trying to control population. Visualizing how population reaches 7 billion. Fantastic little video that you can watch that shows you how medicine, access to better sewage systems, etc., have led to an increase in the population sizes. This talks about the Great Pandemic of 1918, and I probably could put a COVID article in here now, but last week I put a COVID article in, so I wanted to kind of lay off the COVID. We all feel overwhelmed by it right now. Cholera and the Thames. This is a great thing about population and drinking contaminated water. And Philadelphia has one of the oldest water systems, and we did have a cholera outbreak years ago that helped implement what would be our sewage treatment system in Philadelphia because of cholera. Haiti's still experiencing cholera outbreaks because of the earthquake that happened years ago now, and they still don't have access to clean water, so major issues there. Okay, so here's where you'll find your population forum. Remember, initial post due by Tuesday, response post due by Thursday. Here's your population quiz and then your assignment. Remember, one last time, give yourself time to do this assignment. You're going to have to do the Excel spreadsheet and then create graphs, as well as then write a paper. So it's a lot for this week. So here's the PowerPoint on population, and I just kind of want to walk through it briefly. I know I'm not in PowerPoint mode or slideshow view, but you know what, I'll do it. Here we go. So, you know, more people are alive today than at any other time in human history. We're reaching about 7.8 billion people. So we are reaching the 8 billion mark, and we reached 7 billion in the fall of 2015. So it hasn't been a very long time. And there's a lot of concern that when we reach about 10 billion, that we'll start to see catastrophic issues in terms of population, of course, unless a flu or a virus knocks us out before then. And so that's something we want to talk about. The world's population increased at a faster rate during the second half of the 20th century than ever before. And so mostly population growth happens in lower developed countries. In the United States, we actually are seeing a plateau of population. We are at almost a negative population growth, and the reason for that is we haven't had a major population boom since the baby boomer population, and they are dying off. So they are in their 70s and 80s, and they will be dying off at some point, and behind them hasn't been a large explosion. And the reason that we have not seen a huge population explosion in the United States really deals with the freedom of women. Women who are more educated tend to put off having children until after their education, or maybe after they've reached a certain goal in the workplace. The cost of childcare in the United States is astronomical, and so a lot of people have less children. So right now we're at about 1.8 children for every 2 people, which means a negative growth, right? And so that is what's replacing it. Now the economic issues with this, of course, are Social Security, right? That's what everybody pays into. If you're in work, you pay into the Social Security system. Well, if there's not enough people paying into it, right, and the baby boomer generation is sucking from that, eventually that Social Security pool is less and less and less, because you need a bigger population paying into it. There used to be tax credits given for people to have more children, but we've kind of stopped that in the United States. And I bet you any amount of money it starts back up again. We actually need immigration to take place because we need to backfill in that Social Security system. And so there's a lot of questions about it. And so I want you to take all of that into account. And a lot of this relates to what's going on in the world today, right? The fact that immigration is looked at as a horrible thing by this current administration is actually not really the best thing, because we actually need more people to pay into our system, and immigrants, illegal and legal, pay into the system. And so we really definitely need Social Security, or my generation and your generation really will never receive a Social Security check when you get older. And so there's a lot of questions about it, and we need to talk about that. What is carrying capacity? So here's a slide on carrying capacity. And this is how we grew so large. And this is that same video that I have under the module, but I think it's embedded here as well. And we talk about where most populations are concentrated in the world. And here's a great visual. You can see India, and you can see in China there's large populations of individuals. And then we talk about capitalism and how capitalism distributes wealth to nations better than socialism and communism. And so this is a good question, and I know this is one of the big talking points, is that there is a lot of worry that in the current is that if a Democrat is elected president that we will turn into a socialist country. That is a narrative that is not true. There are parts of socialism that some of the Democratic Party would like, but it's definitely worth a watch to think about and to read about. And then here we go, distribution of the world's population, where it is, and why it's located in these areas. And a lot of time most people are located because of climate. But there's also something called climate change, and we need to take that into account. This talks about slash and burn agriculture in terms of population, and I want you to read about slash and burn agriculture. These slides talk about demographic transition models. You will need to know about this for that paper that you have due by Sunday, 11:59, and this talks to you about the different stages of demographic transition, and Mr. Sin does a great job of walking you through demographic transition models. Here are important terms that you want to take note of while you're watching Mr. Sin's video. Population pyramids are another wonderful tool we use to show a place's age and sex composition. And here is a great video on population pyramids. And then other important terms. Fertility rate, we want to talk about that and look at that, as well as mortality rate. So infant mortality rate and life expectancy. These terms you actually will look at for your project. So we're trying to incorporate the terms into you hand using those. And so I want you to think about those. Population density, we look at overpopulation in this session as well. And then policies. And one of the big policies we kind of zoom in this session is the One China Child Policy, and this was enacted as a taxation. If you had more than one child, you're taxed, but due to cultural norms in China, boys were preferred over girls, which led to a lot of massive social consequences. And I want you to read about it in the article. So the article, you can find the PDF of that under the module, and I want you to read about it. It's really, really heartbreaking. And it was repealed, though. The One China Child Policy was repealed in the fall of 2015, I'm pretty sure, 13 or 15. And it has repealed back those issues, but those social consequences will be forever felt in China. And so here are some other, how 3 developed nations have tried to slow rapid population growth. So most developed countries have reached their plateau of population. So when you talk about a lot of democratic societies, for example, like France has opened its borders to immigration because their population was so small. A lot of areas of the United States, Canada, we've all kind of reached plateaus in terms of our population, and that is because of freedom of women, education of women, etc. And I think we need to think about this and take this into account and look at countries like China or India, What policies do they have in place that do not allow women to have freedoms or do not allow women to have choices that will help curb their population growth? Eventually, we will run out of resources if the population becomes too large in the world. Okay, so take that all into account. I know it was a lot in this video, but I want to just do these short little weekly videos and let you kind of do the reading yourself and make your own opinions or develop your own opinions. Have a great week. If you have questions, feel free to reach out. Look for my help videos.